We are located on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. Today is Saturday, April 14th, and your radio hosts today are Kiera and Nick. We will be reading the news for today's edition of the Fayetteville Observer.
Today is going to be 83 degrees, partly sunny, and tonight is going to be 65 degrees, partly cloudy and mild. Sunday, it should be a high of 84 degrees and a low of 54 degrees, mostly cloudy and thunderstorm. Could be breezy. On Monday, it's 65 degrees with a low of 43 degrees, with sunny intervals. It's going to be windy and cooler. On Tuesday, it's going to be 71 degrees and with a low of 51 degrees, pleasant with plenty of sunshine. Wednesday has a high of 83 degrees and a low of 61 degrees, and is going to be warmer with sun and some clouds. Thursday is going to be 82 degrees with a low of 48 degrees and mostly sunny. Friday is going to be 72 degrees with a low of 44 degrees with partial sunshine.
Today is Saturday, April 14th, the 104th day of 2018. There are 261 days left in this year. Today's highlight: on April 14, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was shot and mortally wounded by John Wilkes Booth during a performance of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington. In 1775, the American Society for the Abolition of Slavery was formed in Philadelphia. In 1828, the first edition of Noah Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language was published. In 1912, the British liner RMS Titanic collided with an iceberg in the North Atlantic at 11:40 p.m. ship's time and began sinking. The ship went under 2 hours and 40 minutes later, with the loss of 1,514 lives. In 1935, the Black Sunday dust storm descended upon the Central Plains, turning a sunny afternoon into total darkness. In 1949, the Wilhelmstrasse Trail in Nuremberg ended with 19 former Nazi Foreign Office officials sentenced by an American tribunal to prison, terms ranging from 4 to 25 years. In 1956, Ampex Corp demonstrated the first practical videotape recorder at the National Association of Radio and Television Broadcasters convention in Chicago. In 1981, the first test flight of America's first operational space shuttle, the Columbia, ended successfully with the landing at Edwards Air Force Base in California. In 1994, two U.S. Air Force F-15 warplanes mistakenly shot down two U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopters over northern Iraq, killing 26 people, including 15 Americans. Country singer Loretta Lynn is 86 today. Actress Julie Christie is 78. Rock musician Richie Blackmore is 73. Actor John Shea is 69. Actor Brad Garrett is 58. Actor Robert Carlyle is 57. Actress Catherine Dent is 53. Actor Anthony Michael Hall is 50. Actor Adrian Brody is 45. Actress Sarah Michelle Gellar is 41. Actress Abigail Breslin is 22. And today is Irma Armstrong's birthday.
For the need to know, the first one is the blood drive. The Cape Fear Valley Blood Donor Center is having a Unity in Our Community Day blood drive today from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the AAA Carolinas and Lee Hyundai and Red Tip at Skybow Roads. The Blood Donor Center is experiencing a low blood supply. Donors may go by the center at 3357 Village Drive, Suite 150, weekdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is also open the third Saturday of the month from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. All blood types are needed. However, the center has an urgent need for Type O donors. For more information, call 615-5433. Number 2, the Prayer Walk. The 5th annual As One Prayer Walk is today in downtown Fayetteville. The walk starts at 10 a.m. in Festival Park and will include stops for prayer at various locations in the downtown area. The walk ends at Festival Park with music, food, and fellowship. For more information, go to asonprayerwalk.org. Motorists in the downtown area should be aware that several streets will be impacted by the walk, including Ray Avenue, Hayes Street, Hillsborough Street, Donaldson Street, Franklin Street, Green Street, and Maiden Lane. Number 3, Health Fair. The Fayetteville VA Medical Center will hold a health and wellness fair Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in room 1728 of the Fayetteville VA Healthcare Center, 7300 S. Rayford Road. There will be health education and information, healthy grab bags, exercises, aromatherapy, cooking demonstrations, giveaways, and more. Open to veterans and families. Call 475-6268 for more information. We want to hear from you. Please submit your events in writing at least 10 days in advance. Email calendar@fayettevilleobserver.com or fax details to 486-3545. For questions, call 486-3500.
Alien markings. No, just some tracking by DOT. Question. Lately I've been seeing a lot of white 1-foot squares on roads all over Hope Mills and some in Fayetteville. They seem to be about a quarter mile apart. Obviously they're not alien markings. What are they? R.M. Hope Mills. Answer. You're right, they aren't alien markings. Those small squares are control panels that we use as part of our land surveying process, said Andrew Barksdale, a spokesman with the State Department of Transportation. We have to get the elevation of a road to see where storm runoff is flowing off the pavement. We use a truck with data scanning equipment and we drive on each lane of the roadway. The control panels act as control points to help us piece together a large digital map. We are creating a 3D layout of the road. We use this information to see how the road is currently functioning for storm runoffs and also to design a plan future projects, Barksdale said. Question. VHS tapes, audio tapes, and books on tape are abundant at yard and estate sales, local thrift and second-hand bookstores, and BJ's used books on Murchison Road. Can you please give the name of the owner and address of the store that was featured in the newspaper? He has a new record and music store downtown in Fayetteville. Answer. The owner's name is Sean Atkins, who used to run the former rock shop off Eastern Boulevard. The name of his new business is Back Around Records at 1 Market Square over Carolo Bell Bonds. That's right by the Market House. The store opened last month and hours are 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. For more information, call Back Around Records at 321-9000. Michael Butch.
Missing Fayetteville Man Loved the Water, Sunsets, and God by Greg Barnes. Shortly after 7 p.m. on April 6, someone took a snapshot of Jesse Segro getting into a canoe at Singletary Lake State Park in Bladen County. Segro, 23, and other members of River House Church in Fayetteville had arrived at the park 3 days earlier for a retreat. Every morning, Segro led the group's worship service. Every evening, he and most other church members launched canoes and headed out onto the lake to watch the sunset. That's exactly what Segro was doing last Saturday. The lake was almost his favorite places, and Stacy Long, the lead pastor of River House, which holds services in another church on 71st School Road. Long said he saw Segro out on the lake by himself about 40 or 50 yards from shore shortly after sunset. He was in his canoe worshiping Jesus, Long said. I could see him in the canoe, his silhouette, and could hear him singing. Segro hasn't been seen since. Rescue workers found his canoe upright in the lake. A cell phone and a life vest were inside the canoe. An extensive search followed of the lake and the surrounding 36,000-acre Bladen Lake State Forest. On Tuesday, officials announced that the search had entered the recovery phase. They were no longer looking for Segro. They were looking for his body. On Friday, a scaled-back search included firefighters from 2 area departments, patrol dogs, and state park officials. Katie Hall, a spokeswoman for North Carolina State Parks, said the search would continue at least through the weekend. Family and friends cling to hope that Jesse Segro will be found unharmed. Segro's sister, Olivia Segro, said her father had more than 2,000 flyers printed asking people if they'd seen Jesse. Family and friends spent part of Friday distributing them throughout Fayetteville, she said. The family has set up a Facebook page and a GoFundMe account, Find Jesse Segro, to ask for help and donations to help support the search and his large family. Olivia Segro, 19, described her brother as loving, humble, artistic, caring, and funny. She said he loved music, singing, and playing his guitar. It didn't matter how long he knew you, he would still give you that love, she said. He was also so goofy. Every single minute you were around him, you would just die laughing. I would say you really had the full package. Long called Jesse Segro a world-class martial artist and a dancer who was not afraid to be unique in himself. When he started attending River House about 4 years ago, Long said, Jesse Segro had been dealing with emotional problems. He declined to elaborate. During the retreat, Long said his friends seemed to be the happiest he'd ever been. He was just doing well. He was happy, Long said. Jesse Segro is from a family of 15. His sister said they grew up attending Manna Church on Cliffdale Road. In 2010, all but one family member left Fayetteville for Guatemala, where their father, David Segro, became a missionary. The family stayed in the Central American country for nearly 3 years before returning to Fayetteville, Olivia Segro said. David Segro and Manna Church officials could not be reached Friday for comment. Olivia Segro said she wasn't sure if her father remains a member of Manna Church, but a Durham television station, ABC 11, reported that Manna arranged to fly David Segro back from a mission trip in the Philippines after he was notified of his son's disappearance. He was then taken immediately to Singletary Lake to join the search. My son is either injured or in the woods, or he got on the road, the television station quoted David Segro as saying. He's got a lot going for him. This will not be the time. He's definitely not checking out of here. Olivia Segro said her brother worked as a painter and lived with roommates in Fayetteville. She and Long said it would not be like him to purposely wander off or try to harm himself. Staff writer Greg Barnes can be reached at gbarnes@fayobserver.com or 486-3525.
NC expected to be finalists for Army Future Commands by Drew Brooks, military editor. North Carolina is expected to be named one of the finalists for a new major U.S. Army command, according to Senator Tom Tillis. Tillis, who was in Fayetteville on Friday for a roundtable discussion on opioid abuse, told the Fayetteville Oberver that Army leaders plan to ask the state to make a case to be the home of U.S. Army Future Commands. It's exciting, the Republican senator said. If North Carolina is chosen, Tillis said the new command would likely find a home in the Raleigh area. He said he has already spoken to Army Chief of Staff General Mark Miley, a Secretary of the Army, Mark Esper, on the topic. Futures Command will be tasked with leading and streaming modernization efforts across the Army. Officials have said they want to co-locate the command in a city with potential academic and technological partners. Raleigh is in close proximity to several major universities and Research Triangle Park, where the Army already has a research laboratory, which would make it a seemingly strong candidate. State leaders have said they hope to be considered for the command. Tillis said Fort Bragg gives the state a leg up on competition for the command. The Army post is the largest military installation in the nation and home to one of 3 existing major Army commands, U.S. Army Forces Commands, as well as U.S. Army Special Operations Command, Joint Special Operations Command, the 18th Airborne Corps, and the 82nd Airborne Division. The fact that we have JSOC a short ride away from Raleigh, that we have the 82nd, I think is a big benefit, the senator said. In the past, Fort Bragg soldiers have played a key role in the development of new Army capabilities by helping test equipment. Recent examples include night vision goggles, a new network prototype beginning to be tested by 82nd Airborne Division. According to reports in recent weeks, Army leaders began with a list of 30 possible homes for future command, but expected to pull the list to about 10 in the near future. Army officials have not released their list of possible sites, but officials for several cities have expressed an interest in hosting the new unit or have been mentioned during discussions of the new command. They include Atlanta, Austin, Huntsville, Alabama, Boston, San Francisco, Seattle, and Wichita, Kansas. Officials have said the future's command would not have a large footprint of soldiers, but would instead look to lease existing office space. If selected, Raleigh also would place Future's commands within driving distance of 2 of the 3 major Army commands: Forces Command at Fort Bragg and Training, and Doctrine Command at Fort Eustis, Virginia. The 3rd major command, Army Material Command, is at Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. Like those 3 other major commands, Future Command will be led by, to be announced, 4-star general, officials said. The command will focus on 6 modernization priorities, including long-range precision fires, the next generation combat vehicle, future vertical lift aircrafts, communication networks, air and missile defense, and soldier lethality. Military editor Drew Brooks can be reached at dbrooks@fayetteobserver.com or 486-3567.
Prince Charles Holdings finalizes hotel financing by Monica Vendituli. Prince Charles Holdings executed the financing documents needed to renovate the Prince Charles Hotel on Thursday afternoon. It was a long process. We are glad it's over, said Jordan Jones, the Prince Charles Holdings project manager. Prince Charles Holdings is a Durham-based group that is investing about $65 million in constructing private projects surrounding the baseball stadium being built downtown. The ballpark will be primarily used as a home for the world champion Houston Astros affiliate in the Class A Carolina League. The team is playing in Buies Creek this year. The investment group's projects include renovating the Prince Charles Hotel into apartments, a parking deck, and a hotel and commercial tower that will be filled with office space. Jones said Friday that Prince Charles Holdings will close on a loan agreement and equity documents for renovating the Prince Charles Hotel at a meeting Thursday. The total financing approved for the project is $17.2 million. Prince Charles Holdings secured a $9.3 million loan from Carter Bank and Trust, which is based in Martinsville, Virginia. The group also secured a $4.2 million investment from Twin Community Partners, based in St. Louis, Missouri, for the state and federal historic tax credits being used to renovate the hotel. Jones said the finalization of the financing will allow for the Prince Charles Hotel project to be completed on schedule by December. He said he expects that residents will be allowed to move into the apartments starting in February 2019. The stadium is expected to be ready for opening day in April 2019. Staff writer Monica Vendituli can be reached at mvendituli@fayetteobserver.com or 486-3596.
Tillis local leaders talk opioid crisis. Roundtable included VA and civilian representatives along with elected officials by Drew Brooks, military editor. Fayetteville is on the front lines of the nation's opioid epidemic, but Senator Tom Tillis believes the community's mix of civilians, veterans, and active duty military is also key to finding a solution. Tillis, chair of the Personnel Subcommittee of the Senate Armed Services Committee, hosted a special roundtable discussion on opioid misuse and abuse on Friday. The event at Fayetteville Technical Community College featured elected officials and leaders from Fort Bragg, the Defense Health Agency, the Department of Veteran Affairs, and civilian health care systems. Tillis said the military, VA, and civilian health care systems can learn from each other while battling opioid misuse. He said the roundtable is meant to share best practices and discuss what is left to be done to address the opioid crisis. He said the roundtable was the start of what he hoped would become a larger and longer dialogue. From 2015 to 2016, there were 1,956 overdose deaths in North Carolina, the senator said. If you put that in perspective, it's a greater number than people who die in highway fatalities in this state every year, and it's rising. There is hope, however, and the military and veteran communities have tackled the issue of opioid misuse. Tillis said soldiers returning from deployments are more likely to experience chronic pain and use prescription opioids, but less likely to misuse the drugs and less likely to die from an overdose. He credited Department of Defense and VA policies the circumvent misuse by de-phasing opioid and focusing on lifestyle improvements and non-pharmacological approaches. But civilian doctors said those efforts face additional challenges outside the VA and military hospitals. Dr. Guler of Duke Health and said opioids are relatively cheap, but insurance won't cover alternative treatments such as massages. So if a patient is suffering from neck pain, they are more likely to be prescribed medication than a massage. If I'm in a hospital, I'm more likely to get a Percocet for that, she said. Guler said healthcare providers must put more of an emphasis on treating specific pain with a breadth of alternative treatments as opposed to tossing pills at the problem. To do so will require more education within the healthcare profession, she said. Too few doctors try to understand their patients' pain and are instead willing to prescribe opioids, even when that isn't the best choice, Guler said. Treating pain does not equal opioids. There is more to treating pain than giving people opioids. Overprescribing opioids. The Fayetteville VA Medical Center was once among the worst in the nation in overprescribing opioids, officials said. But in recent years, the Fayetteville VA has become a national leader in decreasing the rate of opioids prescribed and advancing alternative treatments, said retired James Latterza, the Fayetteville VA director. Latterza said there is a time and place to prescribe opioids, but said healthcare professionals should be focused on preventing addictions. Dr. Gregory Antoine, the VA Medical Center's chief of staff, said he couldn't believe what he saw when he joined Fayetteville VA 5 years ago. There was an enormous number of opioids being prescribed, including some patients who received 360 Percocets every 90 days. I said that is not normal, Antoine recalled. Today, Antoine said doctors at Fayetteville VA offer alternative therapists to treat pain before they prescribe pills. They offer chiropractors, acupuncture, aquatic therapy, and more. That was the real game changer, he said. It also allowed the VA to more easily determine which patients were seeking drugs because they were addicted. But civilian healthcare officials said the nearby military and veteran population often complicate efforts to combat so-called doctor shopping. It's a recognized problem, said Mike Nagowiski, CEO of Cape Fear Valley Health System. Cape Fear Valley, the VA, and Womack Army Medical Center at Fort Bragg have a tremendous amount of collaboration, Nagowiski said, and they are in active conversations about furthering sharing resources to expand pediatric and trauma care. But he said officials at Cape Fear Valley can't tell if doctors in the VA or at Fort Bragg have prescribed patients opioids. Likewise, VA and Womack doctors can't always tell if patients has been to civilian doctors either. But a solution is on its way, according to Joseph Yancey of the Defense Health Agency. Yancey said the military is creating its own database, similar to a prescription drug monitoring programs that are used in most states. Eventually, the database will be tied into other monitoring programs, giving healthcare professionals a more complete picture of their patients' medical care. We're committed to having a solution by the end of the calendar year, Yancey said. But a database isn't enough. Dr. Alan Finkel, director of the Carolina Headache Institute and contractor at the Intrepid Spirit Center on Fort Bragg, said educational campaigns are needed not only for healthcare professionals but for patients themselves. Cooler agreed. She said too often efforts to address the opioid epidemic place the blame on patients. It's not all on the patients, she said. It's the medication. It's what these medications do. These medications have an effect on all of us and would on any of us. Tillis said many people are focused on addressing the opioid crisis. He praised State Senator Wesley Meredith and the North Carolina General Assembly for passing the STOP Act last year. The legislation limits the amount of opioid-based pain medication that can be legally prescribed. Tillis said he is against imposing those standards on all states, but said he would consider a similar bill that applies to the VA and military medical centers. Duke Health, too, is making progress. The medical center has seen a 50% reduction in the number of opioids prescribed to patients discharged in the last year and a half, Guler said. And soon the medical center would begin asking all patients a series of 2 or 3 questions to determine their risk of opioid addiction before a prescription is written. Yancey said the military healthcare system is also in process of implementing new policies meant to address the problems with opioids. The military has already adopted the VA's model for opioid prescribing guidance and is standardizing the size of some opioid prescriptions while also introducing new educational programs. But those efforts aren't without bureaucratic headaches. Womack Army Medical Center recognized the opioid crisis a decade ago, said Colonel Daniel Algeo, Deputy Commander of Medical Services. The hospital began a training program to help soldiers and their families self-wean off of the addictive drugs and partnered with a nonprofit organization, Project Lazarus, to prevent overdose help. We were getting people out of the high risk and into the low risk, he said. But after 1 or 2 years, Algeo said Womack was told to cease and desist the partnership with Project Lazarus for fear that it would be perceived as an official Army endorsement of the nonprofit. One of the best practices I would suggest is breaking down some of the walls to allow DOD and VA to partner with civilian organizations, he said. Meredith agreed. We have these silos and they're not being broken down, he said. Everybody wants to fix this and everybody wants to move away from it, but we can't all communicate. Tillis said staff from the Senate Armed Service Committee took notes during the roundtable and could follow up with legislation and make it into the National Defense Authorization Act. In the past, Tillis has held a similar roundtable discussion on other issues in Jacksonville near Camp Lejeune. That event resulted in NDAA language that upgraded the Naval Hospital at the Marine Corps base to a medical center. On Friday, Tillis made no promise that legislation would come from the Fayetteville event, but said he and others would look into the possible changes based on the conversation. I thought we heard some good things, said the senator. Military editor Drew Brooks can be reached at dbrooks@fayobserver.com or 486-3567.
4 arrested in vaping store raids by Nancy McCleary. State and military authorities raided 4 businesses near Fort Bragg on Friday, seizing synthetic cannabinoids and arresting 4 men. We started this investigation after receiving complaints from citizens, law enforcement, and military officials, said Special Agent Jason Locklear of the State Alcohol Law Enforcement. AL and U.S. Army CID executed the 4 search warrants in Cumberland County. CID is the acronym for Criminal Investigation Command. Synthetic cannabinoids are used in vaping products addition to or in place of cannabinoid, or CBD oil. When mixed with certain chemicals, the oil can cause side effects, including headaches, seizures, hallucinations, and death, authorities said. Not all CBD oils have the mind-altering chemicals, Locklear said. The real danger, he said, is that vaping products are not regulated and the altered CBD oils can be put into lollipops, gummy candies, waxes, and liquids used in e-cigarettes. As of January 1st, possession of synthetic cannabinoid is a felony offense. Earlier this year, Army officials identified vaping products such as electronic cigarettes and similar devices as a health issue because of the number of soldiers that were being treated at medical facilities, including Womack Army Medical Center, after soldiers began turning up with potentially life-threatening symptoms. As of late January, 60 cases possibly linked to the use of vaping products had been reported at Fort Bragg or Camp Lejeune. The Friday arrest came after lawmen executed search warrants at the 4 businesses and found products that contained the altered CBD oil. The stores that were searched and those charged were Smoke Shop, 541 Bonanza Drive. Nashwan Ahmed Ali Al-Ofri, 40, is charged with 2 counts of possessing synthetic cannabinoid with intent to sell and deliver, and 1 count of maintaining a store for the sale of a controlled substance. Bail was set at $10,000. Tobacco Hut, 155 Bonanza Drive. Muhammad Ahmed Mathana Ali, 33, was charged with trafficking in synthetic cannabinoid, possessing with intent to sell and deliver synthetic cannabinoid, and maintaining a store for the sale of a controlled substance. Lawmen seized more than 150 vials of CBD. Bails was set at $10,000. VIP Smoke Shop, 6411 Yakin Road. Red One Ahmed Al-Saidi, 38, was charged with possessing synthetic cannabinoid with intent to sell and deliver, maintaining a store for the sale of a controlled substance, misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia, and misdemeanor dispensing without a license involving a hemp mixture that contained CBD. Bail was set at $10,000. Mr. Smoke Shop, 6107 Yakin Road. Fidel Abdul Saleh Muhammad, 23, is charged with possessing with intent to sell and deliver synthetic cannabinoid, maintaining a store for sale of controlled substance, misdemeanor failure to maintain a paraphernalia log, misdemeanor unfair trade practice for having cartons of cigarettes marked for trade use only and not for sale, dispensing without license for having contact lenses for sales, misdemeanor manufacturing drug paraphernalia, and misdemeanor possessing marijuana drug paraphernalia. Bail was set at $7,000. Staff writer Nancy McCleary can be reached at nmccleary@fayobserver.com or 486-3568.
Yakin Wiener Works Bricks Pizza close. Fortunes can be built on pizza dough. The pizza business looms large as a competitive industry in the United States. If you don't think so, consider the round-the-clock variety of television ads promoting the likes of Little Caesars, Pizza Hut, and Papa John's, as well as those pushing such frozen supermarket brands as Freshetta, Red Baron, and DiGiorno. Casualties like leftover crust are inevitable. The Brick Oven Grill, a long time ago, to spot in North Fayetteville, closed at the turn of the year. More recently, Brick's Wood Fired Pizza closed last month after less than 2 years in business. The business in Glenford Commons offered sandwiches, craft beers, and no less than 17 gluten-free specialty pizzas from its pizza selection. The restaurant's location off Glenford Drive, was in one of Fayetteville's fast-growing areas. I'd love to see a nice restaurant go into that space, said Amanda Harrell, the owner of Pure Bure, a physical fitness studio that operates beside the former pizza restaurant space. Those who still crave one of those wood-fired pizzas are able to frequent a Bricks Pizza on Brucewood Road in Southern Pines. That restaurant has been producing pies for people of the Santos for 4 years. Meanwhile, Harrell reported that Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa has expanded into another unit at Glenford Commons. Grubhub delivering in Fayetteville. Grubhub, which bills itself as the nation's leading online and mobile food ordering company, has expanded delivery into Fayetteville and 33 other markets across 19 states. The company delivery service is now available to restaurants in that area. According to a news release, Fayetteville restaurants on Grubhub previously supplied their own couriers to deliver through the platform. But with the expansion into Fayetteville, Grubhub delivery makes it possible for all restaurants to take advantage of delivery to their customer base by providing Grubhub drivers that can deliver from any local establishment. Grubhub is offering on-demand food delivery such as businesses as Nuke's Eatery, Cape Fear Barbecue and Chicken, Sharif, Hunan Garden Chinese Restaurant, Baldino's, Giant Jersey Subs, and LOL Bubble Tea and Coffee. For delivery service, customers can order online at grubhub.com or through Grubhub Android or iOS apps. Grubhub works with more than 80,000 restaurants in over 1,600 U.S. cities and London, the release said. Yakin Wiener Works closed. A Wiener Works sign off Yakin Road, less than a mile from one of Fort Bragg's main gates, says the restaurant is closed for winter. Strictly Business has learned that the restaurant is closed for good. Wiener Works, a small Fayetteville-based fast food chain, has served customers from that site for decades. In more recent years, management and employees have noted in conversation that the restaurant's business largely dried up after the lunch rush. Before closing for good, the location already had reduced its hours. They just lost business, said Mary Goodman, a Wiener Works manager who used to work at the Yakin location a couple of times a week to help out. They couldn't make any money over there. There wasn't a lot of traffic. You would have those girls sitting around for 2 or 3 hours doing nothing. The closure leaves 4 locations spread throughout the city, all with drive-through service and inside seating. Those restaurants are at 915 Person Street, 3402 Radford Road, 3719 Ramsey Street, and 2544 Hope Mills Road. I live in that part of town and have eaten my share of large sausage dogs with mustard and chili from that Wiener Works. My wife and I hate to see it go. If you've never eaten at one of the restaurants, let me tell you that their shoestring fries, when ordered extra crispy, are among the best around. Longtime residents, which include myself, may recall the restaurant started out under the banner Wiener King in 1973. Bill Martin of Fayetteville owns the modest fleet of Wiener Works restaurants. See something sprouting up, have tips, questions, or comment for Strictly Business? Contact staff writer Michael Fetch at mfutch@fayobserver.com 486-3529.
Ruth Law is top seller of Girl Scout cookies by Bill Kirby Jr. Ruth Law of Fayetteville is the region's top seller of Girl Scout cookies and was runner-up for the Girl Scouts North Carolina Coastal Pines. Law sold 6,162 boxes of cookies in the annual program that ended in March. Sadie Martin of Fayetteville was second with 4,386 boxes sold, and Emily Gildry of Hope Mills ranked third with 3,106 boxes. Total sales in the Girl Scouts North Carolina Coastal Pines region was more than 3.1 million boxes, according to the organization, with about 12,750 Girl Scouts participating. The sale was January 13th through March 4th. The Girl Scout Cookie Program is a perfect opportunity for girls to develop important skills that they will use throughout their life while raising funds to support future leadership endeavors with Girl Scouts, Kelly Griffin, a product sales director, said in a statement. All of the girls that participated in the 2018 program made their own unique contribution, making them entrepreneurs and the largest girl-led business in the world, and we cannot be more proud of them. Register now for Cape Fear Valley Health Foundation's 12th annual Ribbon Walk and Run, which is scheduled for April 21st. It features a 5K walk and a 1-mile route that follows Linear Park toward the Market House and then onto Hay Street before heading back to finish at Festival Park. Entertainment and fun for all ages will be provided in the park throughout the morning. Every dollar raised supports the Cape Fear Valley Cancer Treatment and Cyberknife Center, organizers say. Proceeds directly benefit cancer center patients with medication assistance, free mammograms for the uninsured, wig vouchers, art therapy, yoga, nutritional supplements, emergency funding for house payments, and other assistance. Guild Security System is presenting sponsor for the third year. A Survivor Lap kicks off at 8:50 a.m., followed by the 5K walk and the 1 mile run walk at 9:05. Register at BIT registration. For more information, call 910-615-1285. Lynn Hedgehog says they'll be celebrating today with the second annual Downtown Sanford Street Fest and Fireworks, replete with food trucks and music headed by rockers Southern Culture on the Skids. Other music and entertainment will be provided by the Tuesday Night Music Club, Whiskey Revival, and the B-Sides Dial Cisco, and the Temple Teens and the Lee County High School Show Choir. It's a family affair for all-included games for children and adults. Downtown streets will close early this morning for the 8 a.m. Salvation Army Kettle Crush 5K Fun Run. Still, Carthage, Moore, and Ricker streets will remain closed all day. The festival proper gets underway at noon, and the fun zone opens at 3 p.m. on Carthage Street, where festival goers will find a game truck, inflatables, and face painting. Several demonstrations are throughout the day, including martial arts by Black Belt Leadership, Academy and Salsa Dancing by Sanford Light and Dance. As the live music winds down, head to a Depot Park for a dance party where you can kick up your heels and wait on the fireworks. Bill Kirby Jr. can be reached at bkirby@fayobserver.com or 910-486-3571.
North Korea watching our serious steps. President Trump's decision last year to launch 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles at a Syrian airbase was intended to send the Assad regime a message that its use of chemical weapons would no longer be tolerated. But the strikes also had a broader purpose, showing other regimes that the Obama era of U.S. weakness was over and that America's adversaries would have to adjust their calculations about our willingness to act in response to their provocations. Now, a year later, the Assad regime has reportedly defied Trump by its apparent launch of another chemical weapons attack. Once again, how Trump responds will have consequences far beyond Syria. With a high-stakes summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un coming up, Trump needs to keep in mind how his next move in Syria will be seen not just in Damascus, Tehran, and Moscow, but also in Pyongyang. He should use his next strikes on Syria both to punish dictator Bashar Assad and to demonstrate to Kim what might happen to North Korea if it continues to pursue nuclear intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, that could destroy American cities. Last year, Trump delivered a measured, proportionate response to Assad's chemical attack, hoping that this would deter the Syrian dictator. According to retired General Jack Keane, former Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, what we shouldn't do is another measured, proportionate response yet larger that won't deter him. Instead, Keane says, what we have to do is destroy all his capabilities that deliver those weapons. In other words, another bloody nose strike, even a bigger one, is not enough. We need to conduct large-scale operations that will destroy Assad's weapons of mass destruction capability. Such an attack would eliminate Assad's ability to commit chemical weapons atrocities. Just as importantly, it would also provide an unspoken preview for Kim of what could happen to his nuclear and missile programs if he persists in developing and testing the capability to threaten the United States with nuclear destruction. Senator Lindsey Graham, RSC, has suggested that Trump should also consider talking out Assad with a decapitation strike. Assad and his inner circle should be considered war criminals. Legitimate military targets. Graham said this week, if you have the opportunity to take him out, you should. Graham is absolutely right that Assad and his cronies are legitimate military targets, but Trump should hold off on such strikes, at least initially, and instead warn Assad that he reserves the right to hit leadership targets directly if he retaliates. Why? Because Trump wants Kim to see that a similar military operation against North Korea's weapons of mass destruction would not necessarily result in regime destruction, as long as Kim does not retaliate. By acting decisively in Syria, Trump also has the opportunity to send a message not just to North Korea, but also to China, that he is not bluffing when he threatens to act against Kim's regime. Chinese President Xi Jinping was with Trump at Mar-a-Lago when he launched last year's strikes against Assad, and the Chinese leader responded by stepping up economic pressure on Pyongyang. A large-scale operation to eliminate Assad's capability to produce weapons of mass destruction would be a wake-up call to China that Trump is willing to take similar actions against North Korea. It would also create an incentive for Xi to step up the pressure for denuclearization. Trump also needs to stop talking about withdrawing U.S. forces from Syria. An American withdrawal would not only allow Assad to escalate his brutal campaign of atrocities in Syria, but also it would tell Pyongyang that Washington does not have the stomach to see its military campaigns through. If Trump can't keep 2,000 U.S. troops in Syria, Kim would calculate he would hardly have the fortitude to see through such more difficult military interventions against North Korea. Trump has the opportunity to end Syria's ability to massacre innocent men, women, and children with weapons of mass destruction. But he also has a chance to show Pyongyang before the summit meeting that his threats of military actions are more than bluster. The success or failure of that meeting depends on whether Kim believes Trump is serious about taking military action, which is why Kim will be carefully watching what Trump does next in Syria. Follow Washington Post columnist Mark A. Thiessen on Twitter at Mark Thiessen.
Opinion. No excuse for sheriff secrecy. Stop Robinson School paddling. Demerit. For the Harnett County Sheriff's Office, which continues to insist that its investigative files must be kept secret while it fights a lawsuit that charges deputies with using excessive force, including the fatal 2015 shooting of Anderson Creek resident John Livingston. A lawyer for several NC news organizations, including this newspaper, has asked the court to make the evidence public. Lawyers for the Sheriff's Office say state law requires efforts to maintain the confidentiality of certain documents, including personnel records and investigative files. In truth, the public would be best served by transparency by releasing investigative materials on the Livingston shooting and other incidents. That really is the only way the public can see what happened, and is the evidence needed to determine if reform efforts are needed within the Sheriff's Office. It's easy to conclude that the continuing secrecy by the Sheriff's Office has little to do with preserving confidentiality and everything to do with protecting deputies and Sheriff Wayne Coates, who is running for election. Coates was a major in the Sheriff's Office at the time of the incidents that led to the suit and was later appointed sheriff when former Sheriff Larry Rawlins abruptly retired in 2016, months after the Livingston shooting. We expect Harnett voters will keep Coates' insistence on secrecy in mind as they make their ballot choices. Dear me. For the Robinson County School Board, which has delayed a vote on banning corporal punishment in the county public schools, Robinson is one of only 2 counties in the state that still permits paddling of students, a disciplinary technique that long ago was proven all but useless. We're equally amazed that state lawmakers haven't revoked statutes that allow corporal punishment in the schools. There is research, statistical evidence, and books written on the subject, all concluding that inflicting official violence on students is a truly awful idea that causes a lot of harm and little or no good. A group of parents and child advocates in Robinson County has worked to get the county to drop the practice. The public schools should be a safe environment for children to learn, Jessica Lowry Clark, Executive Director of the Robeson County Partnership for Children, told WUNC. They should not be afraid to go to school. Nearly 80% of the paddlings in the state occur at one Robeson County elementary school. Rather than continuing down the path of institutional violence, Robeson leaders need to consider whether this is one more reason why the county has some of the state's lowest performing schools. Merit. For Fayetteville's police and firefighters, who will face off on May 31st in a contest to see which team can be the first to raise the walls of 2 new Habitat for Humanity homes in the B Street neighborhood revitalization area. This is the second year that teams from the 2 departments have scored off in a Habitat home building project. The police department will be framing the walls for a Vietnamese family, the VLS, who have been Fayetteville residents since 2013. The fire department will build the walls of a home for Fonnie Collins and her daughter. The public can keep up with the project by following Fayetteville Area Habitat for Humanity and hashtag Police Fire Friday on Twitter. Merit. For Cumberland County Sheriff's deputies who last weekend saved 2 women from heroin overdoses when they administered the antidote naloxone, the deputies were called to the same hotel just 6 hours apart to help women who were unresponsive after an overdose. Both were taken to Cape Fear Valley Medical Center and later reported to be in stable condition. Cumberland County deputies began training on administering the overdose reversal drug just last month. Fayetteville Police Patrol officers have been carrying it for several years and have saved more than 100 lives since 2015. We expect to see similar numbers from the Sheriff's Office as time goes by and our national opioid addiction problem continue to worsen. Federal statistics show that in 2016, the last year for which figures are available, there were more than 42,000 fatal opioid overdoses across the country. That's why the U.S. Surgeon General has recommended that more Americans start carrying naloxone and why many states are making it an over-the-counter drug available on request. Dear Mitt, for the pollen, which seems this year to be even worse than usual, in a region where it's awful even in mild years, this year is anything but mild. Winter hung on well into spring this year, perhaps delaying some of the pollen, especially grass pollens, but it's going wild now, as most of us are living in a world of sneezing, itchy eyes, and all the other usual symptoms. Don't expect it to end anytime soon. Both tree and grass pollens were rated high by the end of this week, heightened by the arrival, finally, of warm weather. The grass pollen is likely to be with us for much of the summer, and just as the tree pollen tapers off, the weed pollen will be on the rise. There's no winning this battle except to keep our air conditioner filters clean and hide out inside when the pollen's at its worst. Happy sneezing!
Letter to the editor. It is perplexing, if not mystifying, why so many Americans are in denial. Through our complacency, we have allowed defined retirement plans, adequate health care coverage, cost of living raises, proper funding for our schools, and affordable houses to be whittled away. These are basic needs that all Americans in the wealthiest country in the world should be afforded. The United States has a 19 trillion GDP, and yet roughly 140 million people live in poverty. Hospitals are closing, and infrastructures are decaying. Why? Politicians have successfully distracted us with guns, abortion, and racism to the point that we reject what is in our own best interest. How could a tax cut, one of the biggest redistributions of income, be good for the average American? How could denying Americans health care and a 7.25 minimum wage be right? How could CEOs make 300 to 1,000 times what their employees make be just? It is encouraging that teachers in West Virginia, Kentucky, and Oklahoma are finally awakening and realizing what they have been sold a bill of goods. No pay raises, inadequate funding for schools, poorly funded retirement plans so that corporations could have tax cuts are no longer tolerable. When will the rest of America wake up? What does it say about America when an education and working hard are not enough? When are we going to stop being complacent and give our children the America they deserve? Daisy B. Fox, Fayetteville.
Kaepernick only recent figure even close to being a free speech victim. Kneeling during the national anthem cost the former QB not a sponsor or two, but his livelihood. 54-year-old Fox News host Laura Ingraham tangled with teenager David Hogg earlier this month and lost. She disagrees with Hogg's advocacy for gun control. He is a survivor of the February mass shooting at a high school in Parkland, Florida that killed 17 people. Rather than debate him on guns, Ingraham used her Twitter account to make fun that Hogg had been rejected by some colleges. "You're a mom," one woman responded on Twitter to Ingraham's petty tactics. As for Hogg, he responded by tweeting out to his 700,000 followers a list of 12 of Ingraham's major advertisers. All dropped her show, and more than 10 others have since followed suit. Ingraham returned to the air Monday after a week vacation with the show that saw its advertising time cut in half, according to reports. Predictably, some commentators, especially conservatives, claimed free speech was under attack. Ingraham herself told her viewers on Monday she was the victim of a boycott and blamed liberals. She introduced a new segment that will focus on highlighting alleged assaults on speech. "You shouldn't do this by teams," she said of boycotts. "It's the modern way of cutting off free speech." First, boycotts are not so modern. They are a long-standing use of free speech and most notably were effective tools used by the civil rights movement to win African Americans their freedoms. Second, the free speech warriors always miss a key detail. There is no free speech right to possessing a lucrative radio job or advertisers who support same. If a company advertises with your show, that is a business arrangement and a privilege, not a right. Finally, the free speech debate could benefit from a little more honesty and a little less of a white-centric viewpoint. Because if we think about it, the closest thing we've had to someone being punished for speech in a manner that actually raises troubling questions involves a man no conservatives and few people of any political persuasion will touch: Colin Kaepernick. The NFL quarterback and a former San Francisco 49er with the big fro made headlines when he began kneeling during the national anthem before football games to call attention to police killings of African Americans. His opponent successfully branded his protest as anti-military, even though the quarterback had actually talked to a former Green Beret and pro football player about a respectful way to make his statement during the anthem. The military angle, coupled with the protest's clear connection to the Black Lives Matter movement, turned the quarterback into most hated man of color since OJ. Many NFL fans boycotted the league. I don't recall Ingraham or many people protesting the fans' decisions as against free speech. A direct consequence is that Kaepernick had been out of the work since he chose to become a free agent in March of 2017. He has been passed over by all 32 NFL teams despite being a quarterback good enough to lead a team to the Super Bowl in 2013. He sat all season as he watched teams snap up quarterbacks who were in some cases several notches below his talent level. His protests inspire other players in the NFL to kneel and even filter down the college and high school levels. But while the copycat protests have been long since flamed out, the team owner's snub of Kaepernick persists. Just this week, his chance to try out with the Seattle Seahawks went by the wayside because the team could not get clear on whether he intended to continue kneeling, according to reports. Now you may say that just like no one has a free speech right to a nice paying gig in radio or TV, no one has a free speech right to a nice playing gig throwing a football in the NFL, and you would be right. You may say just like advertisers don't want their brand associated with nasty commentary like Ingraham's, NFL teams may not want their brand associated with Kaepernick. I'll concede that point too. But what Kaepernick is arguing, and indeed what led him to file a grievance against the league, is that his continued unemployment is due to owners engaging in collusion to punish him for his role in protests. Labor violation. This still may not be a pure free speech issue because Kaepernick is not being punished by the state. But if his collusion claim is correct, it for sure represents a violation of basic labor rights, namely the right to work in the field in which he is trained. The equivalent snub of my field would be if every member of the Associated Press conspired to deny me a job because of a column I wrote. For a school teacher, it would be every superintendent concluding not to hire her because of a comment she made. 32 bosses and co-owners control Kaepernick's industry, which is American football at the professional level. If they all deny a player work, he cannot work. There's evidence too, Kaepernick is being singled out. Other NFL players have kneeled, including more than 200 on the Sunday after Trump insulted players at a Friday campaign rally. If teams are so concerned about how kneeling impacts their team brands, why are those players still on rosters? And owners over the years have no problem associating their brand with players who have faced a variety of criminal charges and convictions, many of them involving domestic violence. Kaepernick in one series nibble in early August when the Baltimore Ravens showed interest and talk about a city that could use a symbolic figure like Cap. Its police department had been found to have planted evidence on people and was implicated in the mysterious death of citizen Freddie Gray, who cops picked up on a minor charge. But the Ravens passed. Ray Lewis, a former All-Pro linebacker for the team, blamed at the time a tweet made by Kaepernick's militant girlfriend. But ESPN reporting suggested owner Steve Bisciotti did not like Kaepernick's protest and had already decided against hiring him by the time his girlfriend sent out the tweet. Interestingly enough, Lewis had also criticized Kaepernick's protest. Bear in mind, the Ravens welcomed him back into their fold despite his murder charge. And after the Trump slurs, Lewis also took a knee. The Ravens recently signed off injured quarterback Robert Griffin III, even as team officials prepared to testify in a deposition on the collusion claim. Kaepernick is not naive and knew his anthem protest would draw fierce pushback. That was part of the point of his attention, getting action. But he hasn't killed anyone or committed a crime. He donated $1 million to charitable causes even while his employment process were up in the air. We should decide if we think it's fair he should be denied work, perhaps permanently. And we should think if we would feel the same way about what happened to him if his controversial speech were ideas we agree with. Maybe Laura Ingraham can get a new conversation started by making Cap one of the first guests on her new segment on free speech, but I won't hold my breath. Columnist Myron B. Pitts can be reached at mpitts@fayeobserver.com or 910-486-3559.
Death notices. The following deaths have been reported. See upcoming editions of Fayetteville Observer for complete obituary information. Cumberland County. Marvin Lamont McMillan, Sr., 62, of Fayetteville. Unity Funeral Services of Fayetteville. Alice Parker, 78, of Fayetteville. Wiseman Mortuary. Leonard J. Oakery, 94, of Fayetteville. Reeves Funeral Home. Cape Fear Region. Sally Williams, 74, of North Augusta, Georgia, formerly of Red Springs. Lee Floyd Funeral Home and Cremations. Aaron Monroe, 34, of Huntington, West Virginia, formerly of Fayetteville, Herring Funeral Care and Cremations. Edward R. Mason, Sr., 78, of Clinton, Worley Funeral Home, Clinton. Dorothy Duncan Bryant, Fayetteville. Dorothy Duncan Bryant, 85, of Grays Creek, passed away on April 11, 2018. Funeral services will be at Cinder Memorial Baptist Church on Monday, April 16th at 10 a.m. The family will receive friends at the church after the services until 12:30 p.m. The burial will follow at Lafayette. Memorials may be made to Sninder Memorial Baptist Church. Arrangements by Jernigan Warren Funeral Home. Eleanor Menor Burnett, Fayetteville. Eleanor Menor Burnett, 74, of Fayetteville, died Thursday, April 12, 2018. Funeral is Monday at 1:30 p.m. Galilee Free Will Holiness Church. Visitation. Galilee Free Will Holiness Church, Monday noon to 1:30 p.m. Burial, Lafayette Memorial Park, Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service and Crematory of Fayetteville. Moses J. M. Jackson, Fayetteville. Moses J. M. Jackson of Fayetteville died on Monday the 2nd, 2018. Funeral is Friday, 1 p.m., Kingdom Impact Global Ministries. Visitation, Colvin Funeral Home, Chapel, Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Phyllis Benson Huffman, Hope Mills. Phyllis Benson Huffman, 67, of Hope Mills, died Wednesday, April 11, 2018. Memorial Saturday, 2 p.m. Pinecrest Funeral and Cremation Services of Hope Mills. Angela Pate Varnam, Fayetteville. Angela Pate Varnam, 56, of Fayetteville, died Wednesday, April 11, 2018. Memorial Monday, 3 p.m. Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service and Crematory. William Moore Sr., Fayetteville. William E. Moore Sr., 85, of Fayetteville, died Wednesday, April 11, 2018. Funeral Saturday, 10 a.m. Cunningham and Sons Mortuary. Visitations, Cunningham and Sons Mortuary, Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Burial Northside Cemetery.
Judges will not halt legislative elections by Gary D. Robertson. Raleigh, North Carolina trial court judges refused Friday to delay state legislative elections in and around Raleigh next month while litigation challenging several House districts continues. A 3-judge panel declined to halt the May 8th primary for at least 4 Wake County House races because voting had already happening. The decision also likely preserves the use of those in surrounding Wake districts in the November general election. General Assembly boundaries have been redrawn since last summer by Republican legislators and federal courts, the result of other lawsuits. In the latest case, state NAACP, League of Women Voters of North Carolina, and other groups and voters argued the GOP controlled the General Assembly went too far last August when lawmakers altered 4 Wake House districts. Since those districts didn't touch 2 others that courts had found to be racial gerrymanders, their lawsuit says, altering the 4 violated a provision in the state constitution, other redistricting during the middle of a decade. Attorneys for legislative leaders disagree and has said lawmakers were within their responsibilities to redraw them. In their order, the Superior Court judges gave the plaintiffs hope they will ultimately be successful, writing, "They have demonstrated a reasonable likelihood of success on the merits of their claims." But the request for a preliminary injunction was denied because if granted it would halt ongoing House races and more importantly would interrupt voting by citizens already underway, according to the order by Superior Court Judge Paul Ridgway, Joseph Crosswhite, and Alma Hinton. Mail-in absentee voting for the primary began last month, and in-person absentee voting starts next week. The chief attorney representing those who sued highlighted the court's comments about future success. "We will aggressively litigate this case to final resolution to ensure there are fair districts in place by the time voters go to ballot box in 2020." Allison Riggs with Southern Coalition for Social Justice said in the release. Basic legal principles of equality demand that voters of Wake County have the same right to vote in constitutional districts as every other resident in the state. Riggs' client said Republicans altered 3 of 4 districts to improve chances for Republican election victories because the districts have become politically more competitive during the decade. The plaintiffs want the lines of those 4 districts returned to how they were first drawn in 2011. That will require adjoining districts to be adjusted too. Had the injunction been granted, primary choices in the 4 districts wouldn't have been counted, and special primary elections may have been required in the summer for those in other Wake County districts that also had to be altered to comply. The boundary lines are gaining more importance as domestic Democrats seek to end the GOP's veto-proof majorities in November and Republicans try to remain in charge at the legislative building.
Region and elsewhere. Eldegard E. Chavis, Rayford, NC. Mrs. Eldegard Emma Brum Chavis of Rayford passed away on Thursday, April 12, 2018 at her home at the age of 78. A private memorial service will be held later. Catherine Ann Walker, Lakeland, Florida, formerly of Fayetteville. Catherine Ann Walker, 75, of Lakeland, Florida, formerly of Fayetteville, died Wednesday, April 11, 2018. Funeral Monday at 1 p.m. Rivers of Faith Church. Visitation, Rivers of Faith Church, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Prior the service. Burial, Rockfish Memorial Park, Rogers and Brees Funeral Home. Willie James Lacewell, Fayetteville. Willie James Lacewell, 86 of Fayetteville, died Tuesday, April 10, 2018. Funeral Monday, noon, Colvin Funeral Home Chapel. Visitation, Colvin Funeral Home Chapel. Sunday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Burial, Sandhills State Veterans Cemetery. Colvin Funeral Home Crematory. Cecile Murrell Strawn, Clinton. Cecile Murrell Strawn, 102 of Clinton, died Thursday, April 12, 2018. Funeral Sunday, 3 p.m. Grace United Methodist Church. Visitation, Grace United Methodist Church. Sunday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Burial, Grandview Memorial Park, Crumpler Honeycutt Funeral Home. Carrie Oxidine Hunt, Roland. Carrie Oxidine Hunt, 83 of Roland, died Thursday, April 12, 2018. Funeral Sunday, 2 p.m. Benson Chapel Baptist Church. Visitation, Floyd Funeral Services in Fairmont. Saturday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Burial, Benson Chapel Baptist Church Cemetery. Doris Jacobs Hunt, Council. Doris Jacobs Hunt, 90 of Council, died Thursday, April 12, 2018. Funeral Sunday, 3 p.m. New Hope Baptist Church, Balton. Visitations, New Hope Baptist Church, Sunday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Burial, Red Hill Cemetery, Peacock Funeral Home, and Crematory. Luella C. Thompson, Red Springs. Luella C. Thompson, 87 of Red Springs, died Thursday, April 12, 2018. Funeral Tuesday, 1 p.m. Townsend Chapel Bible Church of God. Visitation, Townsend Chapel Bible Church of God, Monday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Burial, Townsend Chapel Bible Church of God, Colvin Funeral Home, Lumberton. Thomas MacArthur, Roland. Thomas MacArthur, 88 of Roland, died Saturday, April 7th, 2018. Funeral is Saturday, 1 p.m. New Zion Methodist Church. Visitation, New Zion Methodist Church, Saturday, noon to 1 p.m. Burial, New Zion Church Cemetery, Colvin Funeral Home, Lumberton. Mary Blanks, Lumberton. Mary Blanks, 83 of Lumberton, died Wednesday, April 11, 2018. Funeral Sunday, 3 p.m., 10 Mile Center Baptist Church. Visitation, Bowles St. Paul's Funeral Home, Saturday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Burial, 10 Mile Center Baptist Church. Ayanna C. Barrett, Sanford. Ayanna C. Barrett, 18 of Sanford, died Sunday,